Hi there, welcome to my latest 10-minute moan. And the topic of this one is an incredibly stupid piece of business done by Scottish Government, Prosecution Services and driven by the lunatics in the Green Party. So this piece of information has been shared on mainstream, but because it's not a, Hums's brother-in-law's arrested type headline, it's probably not been picked up by a lot of people. So I thought I would share it because it just gives you some good insight into the complete lunacy of the SNP, which to be fair has been driven by the Greens because they've had to go cap in hand to them to actually retain power in the Scottish Government by going into coalition with them. So the particular piece that I'm going to read out to you is from the Daily Record, but there's a lot of different outlets covered it, and I'll put a link to the Record article in the description, to be fair to them. And I'll go through the article and then I'll give you my opinion on it at the end, which this thing's crackers, right? So it revolves around, the headline is Crown Office £3.5 million taxpayers decarbonisation refurb will take 1,000 years to recoup the costs. The scheme to fit electric heat pumps and improve installation at Elgin's small Prosecutor Fiscals office is being carried out despite average bills of just £2,500, that's per year. The Crown Office has admitted it will take 1,000 years to recoup the £3.5 million costs of decarbonisation refurbishment at one of its bases. Elgin's small Prosecutor Fiscal Office has been given a taxpayer-funded upgrade which improves which involves improving installation in order to rip out the gas boiler and replacing it with one of these heat pump things that they're all going crazy about. But the scheme has been branded utterly ridiculous, as it emerged the estimated annual energy cost of saving just £3,885 per annum, meaning it will take a millennium to pay itself. SNP MSP Fergus Ewing said, "This Crown Office scheme involves utterly ludicrous expense to the taxpayer for minute benefit. According to these revelations, these annual savings will only be £3,885, and as the total costs of the work are £3.5 million, it will take nearly 1,000 years to recoup the benefits, and that may not even take into account electricity running costs." Figures released through Freedom of Information show the Elgin project is costing a staggering £2,342 per square metre, despite the annual gas bill averaging £2,500 per year, £200 a month. The Scottish Government wants to ban gas boilers, and a backstop date of 2045 has been set for all homes to use zero direct emissions heating systems such as heat pumps which run on electricity. But based on the Crown Office budget for Elgin, that would mean a tenement flat of 100 square metres would cost £234,000 to convert, while a 150 square metre house would be £351,000. Ewing added, the astronomical costs of this misguided policy would be devastating for homeowners. If the costs of decarbonising older types of properties like this one are around £2,342 per square metre, then people would be hit with bills running into hundreds of thousands of pounds. Plainly, such levels of costs are totally unaffordable and really quite absurd. It is simply pie in the sky to impose these madcap so-called green wheezies on householders in Scotland. The Finance Secretary and the Scottish Government needs to put the brakes on this profligate expenditure before millions are wasted in such dubious schemes. I will be pursuing this with the relevant ministers in the Scottish Government and, if necessary, the Auditor General. Wow. The records say that we revealed in December how the cost of the Elgin office decarbonisation had jumped by 1.3 million from the original 2.2 million in less than 1 year. Let's have a wee look about anything else. Any Zero Carbon Buildings Minister Patrick Harvey, that's the Green guy that nobody voted for. I think he got between 1,100 and 1,500 votes at the last election and ended up in the Cabinet of the Scottish Parliament. Anyway, Patrick Harvey confirmed the change as the government produced a consultation for new heating bill. He said the delay made the proposals fairer and clearer, but opposition MPs have raised doubts about how the decarbonisation plan, which in 2021 was estimated to cost £33 billion, would be paid for. A Scottish Government spokesperson said reducing emissions from buildings is essential for Scotland's just transition to net zero by 2045. A spokesperson for the, what's that? That's the Procurator Fiscals office added this investment will allow the COP FS to meet Scottish Government targets to reduce the carbon emissions by 2.5% each year and to help deliver Scotland's transition net zero. There you are. What a load of complete and utter bollocks, right? Now, this sort of nonsense purely came about because the SNP couldn't get enough seats to have a Scottish Parliament and run government themselves. They had to get into coalition with the Greens. So the Greens then became the kingmakers in the whole deal, and they put some stipulations, and one of the stipulations was they had to have a certain amount of people on cabinet, and they would be allowed to push through stupid bills like this. Now, the thing that gets me is, and another thing, as you can see now with Ewing coming out, an SNP MSP coming out and showing total disregard for all this nonsense, and I tend to agree with him. It just shows more splits in the party, and I quite believe that he'll not be the only person in there right now at Holyrood on an SNP bench who isn't questioning the the common sense of actually being in bed with these Greens. It's bonkers. But one of the things that got me when I first read this article is the original plan budget was 2.2 million. It's been up over £1 million since then. But if the original budget was 2.2 million, and they reckon they're going to save £3,885 per year, then even when they agreed to this nonsense, it was going to take, 600 years to get a return on your investment? Is it any wonder that Scotland is so shambolic and bankrupt, financially and morally, when people are making decisions based on such figures? Who in their right mind would make a business-led decision on those figures? Who would put money into any project that originally would take 600 years to see a return on? Now, I'm not saying we should ignore green issues. I don't particularly buy into the whole conspiracy theory that the Earth's going to burn and we're all going to die. But I think, if we can reduce emissions, then it might not be a bad thing overall, but I don't think it's as scary as the media point out to us. We know what's going to happen to the Earth. The Earth's been about for billions of years. We've been about for that amount of time within the Earth's history, and it's managed to go through extreme heat and extreme cold without us putting CO2 into the atmosphere. In fact, the Earth needs CO2 in the atmosphere. If there's no CO2 in the atmosphere, there's no atmosphere. So, the thing that actually protects us from the rest of space wouldn't exist without some sort of level of CO2. And if it dropped something like 10%, we would have no atmosphere. So, it does need CO2, and I'm not saying we should just keep pumping stuff into it. I'm not that scientifically knowledgeable to dictate these things. However, I think it's a lot of bollocks that we're going to fry, right? But in the same turn, if you can do stuff that saves money and saves a bit of emissions, then why wouldn't you do it? But this sort of nonsense, politicising of scaremongering tactics about the Earth going to explode at some point, just shows you how crazy the world has become. That, originally 600 years to pay off an investment into a building. And I'm not saying we should blow up buildings, but to build a net zero carbon-free footprint building would probably cost a lot less than that. The world has gone insane, but a couple of points that are in my head: the lunacy of the decision, the absolute stupidness of the Greens having this level of power in Scotland just because the SNP didn't want to let somebody else have a coalition government and a wee shot of govern the country. And more splits within the SNP, because see, when Salmond or Sturgeon were the leader in the SNP, nobody, bar none, would contradict policy or ask questions about government. Now that you see Ewing doing it, and he's not alone, excuse me, I do beg your pardon, it just shows me that there's more cracks, and these cracks are down to one thing. This isn't MSPs and MPs just suddenly becoming conscientious people. This is MSPs and SNP MPs figuring out that their gravy train might be ending soon. And now they suddenly want us to expect them, they've just suddenly found a conscience. The only reason you've found a conscience, anybody in the SNP, Mary Black, a lot of them, that are suddenly becoming outspoken about the SNP, is simply the Self-Preservation Society. Because you know, as well as me, regardless of which that Flynn crackpot down in Westminster says that he actually wants to get more seats in the next Westminster election, with recent polls suggest he might be down to about 17 or 19 seats, the rest of normal thinking people know your time's up and the story ain't getting any better. And now the infighting starts, the self-preservation starts, the talking out about policy starts. Why we's not doing this for the last 15 years? Because you said a cushy wee gravy train, and it's led to this nonsense. £3.5 million getting spent to save £3,800 a year. All this bollocks only came about because you guys wouldn't stand up and talk about anything that was wrong in your party, in your governments, for a decade and a half. And now he's on bother. You're all deciding to come out the woodwork and talk about Nicola Sturgeon and talk about the party and talk about how, the cult of personality within your own party, all this nonsense is still coming out. Well, it's nice to hear it from you, but I ain't buying your bullshit. Because you've all had your cushy wee jobs for a long, long time and sat and said, hee-haw. So Big Craig ain't listening. All right. Anyway, if you enjoyed the podcast, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe and notifications. And if you're looking for some more videos to watch, there'll be some recommendations in the corner here. And I would really recommend watching the £750,000 one with the Gaza if you've not watched it already. It's getting a lot of views just now. But most important of all, have a great day. Bye now.